Hey guys, it's Rosie. Welcome to my February reading recap. What a month. It's insane. I read the most books I have ever read in a singular month this month. And it's the shortest month of the year, so. Anyways, feeling very epic and swag about that. Pretty cool. I am shook. But also, we already know, it's due to the Warrior Cats. And I have my whole reading career to thank Erin Hunter for, quite honestly. This month, I have read 17 books total. That's ridiculous. That's whack. Let's hop on into it. Excited to break these down for you. But if you're new here, I do a reading recap every month. I'm trying to post reading vlogs as well, and just putting out more bookish content in general is a goal for me this year. So if you're down for that, if you're down for some lifestyle vlogs and some ranting and, you know, fashion and mental health chat, stick around, click that subscribe button. I would be happy to have you. Of course, we have to begin with the Warrior Cats books. All of the following were written by Erin Hunter, the team of Erin Hunters. There are multiple. And within the month of February, and sort of like a little bit of January, I've been teasing the idea of doing a full Warriors retrospective in which I read every single piece of Warriors media I am able to. And I think I finally committed to it. It's gonna be a long time coming. I probably won't be able to do that video until like literally a year anniversary of when I started rereading them. But it's worth it. And I'm excited by it, and yeah. We're putting the focus on Warriors again. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm embracing it. And because of that, I read 12 Warrior Cats books this month. I read 2 entire arcs. I read The Dawn of the Clans, and technically I finished book 1 on the last day of January, but I'm not counting the number here, but essentially I read the whole arc within the first week of February. First weekend, even. I don't know, whatever. Then I read Bramble Star's Storm, which is the super edition that's meant to be in between A Vision of Shadows and Omen of the Stars. So it sort of like is a bridge. People die in it. It's like kind of important. And so as I've gone on, I've realized that the super editions, especially like the ThunderClan centric ones, are very important to read, because after I finished A Vision of Shadows, I just tried to start the next one, which is, which is The Broken Code. But literally within the first chapter, it was like, oh, we're all so sad that this main character died. I was like, what? No, she didn't. You didn't tell me that. So I had to go back, and I found out that there are 4 super editions that are meant to take place over the course of the last like arc before this one. And I was like, you're fucking kidding me, man. That's ridiculous. That's just so much to read. And thankfully, shout out Agatha's sister Sophia, who has read all of the Warrior Cats books recently. She was able to point me towards which one it actually happens in. And so I could just read that one and keep moving. I was like, oh my God. And it just really hit me how much I'm gonna have to read to get where I'm going. So why was I even talking about that? Oh, okay. Bramble Star's Storm. And so Bramble Star's Storm lives outside and in between the arcs. That was a good one. That was an important one. And if you missed that one, then you also missed a major plot point of him and Squirrelflight, his ex-wife, maybe. However they want to classify her, his ex-wife and essentially vice president, get back together. And she gets pregnant, even though she thought she couldn't get pregnant because she was lied to by her dead Warrior Cat ancestors. So all I'm saying is there's a lot of drama and a lot of tea sizzled into these books, and if you miss one, you're missing a lot. Very quickly now, The Dawn of the Clans as an arc left a lot to be desired. This one was like the prequel story where they tell you how the clans started in the first place and how everything's connected and how they created their traditions, blah blah blah. And after I finished last book, I was like, there has to be another book. There like has to be, because everything that we've come to know within the Warrior Cats world has been hinted at, but it wasn't exactly defined in that series. And I was like, you could have done just one more book where they all do everything for the first time and be done with it. So that was a weak one. The characters were interesting, but oof. And then Vision of Shadows was good. I was happy to finally meet Elderheart, which is a very popular character in the late game Warrior Cat series that I had no idea about until now. It was interesting because you spent a lot of time in other clans, specifically Shadow Clan and then Sky Clan, which is not the typical norm for a Warrior Cats book. You're normally in one clan, Thunder Clan. So it was cool to see other perspectives. However, I did miss my Thunder Clan girlies. Overall, all right, 3.5 out of 5. With this, and the focus was Shadow Clan and the Sky Clan, I was like, damn, we know everything about 3 of the 5 clans now, but they still won't give me a River Clan arc. Where is it? That's what I want. I want a River Clan arc. I've wanted it since the beginning. I'm a River Clan girl, and that's what I'm here for. So, Erin Hunter, hope you're writing notes, because that's what I want next. Thank you. That was 12 of the books. And I'm not going to go even more in depth into it because you're probably not going to read the Warrior Cats books. In fact, I would advise you don't. And then just wait until I put out my long Warrior Cats retrospective video, and you can just gather what it has taken me, or now 6-7 months into this. So you can just glean all the information from there. Don't even bother reading. Let's move on to the actual books you might be interested in. I read 5 other books, one of which was my first audiobook. That was The Devotion of Suspect X by Kigo Higashino, and Christina recommended this one to me. Shout out Christina. I was like, I am not an audiobook person. I've never been able to do audiobooks because when I listen to an audiobook, my brain thinks it's a podcast, and I zone out with podcasts so much that I will just go back and, you know, like, it's kind of like I have an episode for 3 days, even if I've listened to it already, because I didn't actually glean the information. However, that doesn't work very well with books when you can't just zone back in when you want because you're in the middle of a plot that you don't understand. So it took me a while. It took me a while to get through Devotion of Suspect X. I think I started it in January and I finished it in the 2nd week of February. I know that I had it on hold through Libby, the app, and then I had to renew the hold. So it took a bit, but it was very interesting. I liked the narrator. His woman voice was a little annoying, but whatever. And the story was so cool. It was very intricate. It takes place in Tokyo, and it's about this teacher and then a single mother and her daughter who are neighbors in a building. And the teacher is in love with the single mother, and she doesn't really notice him. And a murder happens very, very early on. The mother, I'm not really spoiling anything. You'll find this out one chapter in, but the mother, Hanoka, she murders her ex-husband who is abusive and like trying to fuck with her, and her daughter like kill him and then freak out, and then the neighbor heard it, and so he's like, I can help you if you want, because he's this insane genius. He teaches math, but he has like a brain for puzzles or whatever, and so he plots out this whole insane elaborate thing, and then you follow the detective who is on the case trying to figure it out, and this professor of physics they're like kind of besties, and the detective brings in the professor to like help him think it through, like see other sides of the story. And you just sort of follow how the investigation unravels, and like you see all of the different twists and turns that the math teacher thought of to like build into the plan, and like it was just so intricately thought out, and I was like, wow, this is mastermind material. It got 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and listening to it as an audiobook, I really tried to make sure, especially since I was like, there are things going on that if I don't pick this up, I will be lost the rest of the way. I tried to make sure I was really closely listening to it. So that definitely helped. I did not play it while I was working or anything. I played it like while I was cleaning, and I could zone out the clean in order to listen to the book. Big fan. Enjoyed it a lot. Next, I read 4 physical books. 2 of them were books of the month, so that's great. I'm working on that. The first one was The Fury by Alex Michaelides. Alex. I've tried to like his writing. I read The Maidens. I thought it was interesting and cool up until literally the very end when it got ridiculous and made no sense. The final twist was just kind of like pointless to me. And I tried to read The Silent Patient. I did not like it. I know a lot of people like it, but I just couldn't stand the main narrator. Like, I don't know why. He just rubbed me the wrong way. I DNF'd that one. And then The Fury, the concept of this one was more interesting to me than The Silent Patient, so I was like, I'll give him a go again. I liked most of the Badens. And so, once again, unfortunately, I liked most of The Fury until the end when he got real crazy. And he loves to cook in a twist and a turn inside a twist and a turn. And there were so many like fake out endings that I was like, oh my God, Jesus. And I got sick of it after, I think, the third one. So, wasn't for me. It was better than The Silent Patient, I think. I didn't finish it, but I did finish The Fury. I gave it 3 stars, I think. Just because it like drove me a little nuts at the end. I was like, you don't have to do this. Like, you can have a really good book without all this shit. So, but essentially a really famous movie star goes and vacations on her private island in Greece every once in a while. She brings along her bestie Elliot, who is the narrator, along with her other friend Kate, who is an actress, and her husband, whose name I don't remember because I don't care about him, and her son. And they're all on this island. They think someone dies. It gets wild. There are lots and lots of twists and turns, as I said. And I don't know. I just wasn't really a fan. So this one is going into a local little library. And then the other book of the month I read was What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. And this one was really good. It was a very strong start to a series. The sequel is coming out. The reason I read this one and like went for it in the first place was I had chosen it for my book of the month in November, and then for whatever reason Instagram decided to show me fan art for it like a couple weeks ago, even though I not interacted with anything about it at all. And I was like, huh, okay. So I took that as a sign. I haven't seen it anymore since I finished it though, because I'm like, now I want to see it. But whatever. What the River Knows is about our main character Inez, whose parents live half the year in Egypt. She gets a note that they died mysteriously, and she decides to go and check it out in Egypt. She's from Buenos Aires, and then they are in like 1884. Yeah, it's 1884. And so, you know, she's a single woman traveling across the world, and there's just a lot of like, obviously like misogyny and, you know, old-timey like stuff that's like, oh God, okay. And at first that turned me off a little bit, and then eventually we finally got past the whole like, you traveled across the world alone, you're a woman. And then it got good. And then it just sort of dragged out really long. I know a lot of people were big fans of the main man. His name is Wit, and I really liked Inez. I thought she was a great female character. She was very strong, and she like just wouldn't give up on her convictions, and I loved that. It was all about, obviously, Egypt. The river is the Nile, and she's trying to find out what happened to her parents through her uncle, who she finds mysterious and like kind of thinks is a bad guy due to some clues that were left behind. There is obviously a twist and a turn, but they are trying to find Cleopatra's tomb. And there's magic involved, like for realsies. So I thought that was interesting too. Very fun addition. And it was very interesting. It was a 5-star almost, like until the end. And then I felt like they just tacked on just a little too much to the end. It was very much giving The Mummy, but like obviously slightly different. That was the aesthetic. And then at the end, things got like really crazy. And then it switched into like really hardcore action for the last few chapters, and a lot happens in like the literal last handful of chapters. They made it work. It was still better than The Fury, so 4 stars. Pretty good. I'm definitely gonna read the second one. And then the last 2 physical books I read were Neon Gods and Electric Idol by Katie Robert. Wow. I did not expect to like these as much as I did. I resisted going after these for 2-3 years, even though my friends raved about them. And I don't know why. I quite honestly don't know why. I just have a lot of retellings in my collection already. I was like, I don't need another. But I needed it. I needed this one. It is kinky. It is very sexual, so if you're not into that, don't pick it up. I think that's literally all of them, is that they're just all like super sexual, which I mean is fine by me. This one was wild, and then this one not so much. This one was a lot more tame. So I think they sort of rotate, but it depends on the characters you're talking about. So this one was about Hades and Persephone. Really beautiful world building. It gave you a lot of information on like the society that they live in and how the gods' positions work in this version of Olympus, which is just like a modern city, I think in North America, that is like insulated on itself, and then the gods besides Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus are all elected to office, and then those three are born into their role. So it's like a combination monarchy and democracy. I don't know. Obviously there's like a little bit of magic involved too, because they're gods and whatnot. But it's very cool. I really liked the characters. They were very fun, very easy to identify with, which, I mean, to make Greek gods accessible is a little hard. So great job, Katie. This one, like I said, very kinky, has a lot of public sex, and like, I feel like that's the main thing, like bondage and whatever, but that's the main thing that I think makes it deviate from the norm. And then Electric Idol. This one is about Psyche and Eros. Psyche is a plus size, like influencer type girly pop, and she is Persephone's sister. And then Eros is like kind of like a hitman for Aphrodite, his mom. And they fall into an arranged marriage, so Eros does not have to kill Psyche after they accidentally get photographed together. This was so good. It was just like a really adorable, when it shouldn't have been adorable book. Like the love that they had for each other was very tender and sweet. Their forced proximity and the like fake marriage and whatnot was lovely. It was just really cute and I liked it a lot. Also loved that Psyche was a plus size main character and it was not the entirety of who she was. There were a lot of layers to these characters, which was good. In my favorites video, I said that this was my favorite book of the month. And then as I was reading What the River Knows, I was like, is that gonna change? But no, it didn't. Electric Idol is #1 in my heart. So if I had to recommend one, I'd go with this one. And while they are connected in the same world, they are separate enough that if you just wanted to read one of these books, you could. And they still like explain the dynamics otherwise, which is great. And those are all of the books I have read in February. So good. As you know, it is March. I've read one book so far. It was a Warrior Cats book, but it was a super edition I needed to read to get to the next series. So you'll hear about that in a month. But my sort of like bookish resolutions for this month, I want to read 4 physical books because I did it last month. I can do it again. And I really need to keep setting like physical book goals in order to get through all of my piles and shelves, because I have not read so many of these. And then next, I want to try and actually be caught up with the Warriors arcs by the end of March. I only have 2 left, and it's really more like 1 1.5, I think, because it's not finished. And I know I can absolutely do that because I read 2 full ones last month. And then after that, I'm going to read all of the super editions and the mangas and stuff like that. And I was really trying to fight the Warriors train last month. It did not work very clearly. I bounced back harder than I thought I would. And now that I'm so close to the finish line of like the main series, I'm like, let's go. Let's fucking go. So I'm just gonna try and finish them all, which would be nuts, but also well within my capability. So we'll see where we get by the end of the month. I still want to get my library card. That's just sort of like forever on the to-do list until it gets done. And finally, my last one is I want to go through my shelves and my piles and try to de-haul some books. I got rid of some this month, and I want to get rid of more. I just like need to. I have piles on the ground of things I do actually want to read, and then I look at my shelves and there are some things in there that I don't think I'm ever gonna read. So I need to set aside some time to actually go through them and pilfer out what I don't want. And then at some point I am going to be doing like an exploring my free little libraries around me type of video, I think. and I want to save some of these books for that, so I can just like drop them off at each one. I have one near me, like literally around the corner, but it's very full and it does not look like it gets a lot of use. So I put in 2 books. I haven't checked it since then, but it was very full, so I don't think I could put more in there. So we gotta find some others, and that's fine by me. But yes, I'm like, what else is there to talk to you about? Book-wise, I'm excited for the book of the month this upcoming month, because you got a free book if you're like the best friend or whatever, and I just made that status, so I got one of their like book of the year contenders, and that one is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I couldn't tell you what the actual book of the month I chose was, so that'll be a surprise when the box comes in. Anyways, that's all I got for you. I would love to hear what your favorite book you read this month was, or if you have any like book goals that you're working towards, please let me know down below in the comments. If you want to keep up with me and like what I'm reading and stuff, Goodreads I do keep super up to date, and then I try to update Storygraph every few books or so, just because I'll be honest, I don't like the interface of Storygraph very much. I love all of the different data it gives you. I do not like the actual recording of the data. Like, I don't know. Goodreads is just a lot more straightforward to me, even though it does still kind of suck. Would love a third option if anyone has one. But until then, you can find out what I'm reading through those if you want. I love to be friends on those apps. It's very exciting to me to see what you guys are reading too, because it's just so fun. But yes, I hope you are having a fabulous whatever time of day you're in. I will be talking to you very soon. Bye.